It's Wednesdays. Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Wednesdays with Woody, where we interrupt your regular Wednesday to bring you another rendition of this hot ass mess of a show. How y'all doing? Let's go. If you haven't guessed it, I'm your host Woody Woods, and your boy is just trying to stay afloat. Just trying to make it through this week, trying to make it through this life, trying to just do the things. But before I get distracted with all of that, this week on the podcast, we discuss relationships and getting lost in other podcasts. Discuss the launch of a new app called QueerReads, an app dedicated to promoting LGBTQIA+ books. And then finally discuss Jonathan Van Ness's emotional debate with Dax Shepard. I really hate pronouncing people's surnames. It's a thing. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow me on all social media, on all major social media networking platforms. Yep. Let's get into this week. I'm getting so lost. I'm getting lost in the world, but I'm not even going to complain because it's really good for my mental health, and that's all that really matters in this life, like just your mental state. I've been spending a lot of my time recently just listening to podcasts of other shows, particularly true crime podcasts, and oh my word, like y'all should have let me know from the get-go that it was the serious out here in the world, because my goodness, there are some scary people in the world, and it's fascinating to spend hours on end just listening to some horrific stories. In fact, interesting and horrific, I don't know if those actually go together, but okay, here we are, Woody. It's really, I don't know, the world is just not a safe place, and I've been saying this for this whole year, the world is just not a safe place, but these true crime podcasts really they prove that for me. They prove that it is not safe out here for anybody. So particularly, so when I'm listening to these true crime podcasts, the ones I'm drawn to, the ones I find myself really getting involved in, are ones that are centered around relationships, family relationships or partner relationships, whatever the case might be, but they're just centered around relationships. And now that I'm just doing this mental analysis for myself as I'm busy speaking, I'm realizing actually that's a given for you, because one of my core beliefs is that everything in life is relational, or involves it being in a relationship or part of a relationship. Those are the most important things in my life, at least. Everyone else can just decide what's important in their life, but for me, relationships are super, super important. So a lot of the podcasts these true crime podcasts I've been listening to are just centered around that. And there was one I was particularly taken with. It is called Bad Thing, and it's about this couple, Mark and Janaire, who have been together for like about 20 years. I'm not going to get into too much of this podcast. I really think everyone should listen to it. It gave me much to think about. But Mark and Janair have been together for like 20 years, 20 plus years, and they're in their 50s, or Mark is in his 50s, or just about to enter his 50s, whatever the case might be. And he falls in love with a younger woman. Surprise, surprise. And he starts developing a relationship with her while he's still married to Janair. And fast forward, a couple of months, things just begin to become sour. With regards to his relationship with Janair. She finds out about the affair. She begins to question her whole state of reality. Eventually, both Janair takes her life, and she also takes, what is the other woman's name in this? Is her name Monica? I think her name is Monica. Just hold on. Meredith. Her name is Meredith. Don't know where I got Monica from. Janair takes her life, and she takes Monica's life as punishment for Mark, so that he can be left to ponder his existence without these two women who he really loved. I'm not gonna get into it, but I was just, this podcast particularly fascinated me in the context of relationships and all of life being an act of relation to something else. It was very interesting. One of the things that I got from the podcast was that we go to school and we will learn math, we will learn accounting, we will learn science, we will learn English, we will learn all of these things, but important things like how to communicate, or I don't know, something as important as how to pick a partner who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. We never learn those things. Somehow we're just sent out into the world and just figure it out. You just figure it out, find the person who you're going to love and just figure it out. And I get it from listening to these podcasts. I recall, as though it was like aeons ago, I recall just being single, and there was always a fear around entering a relationship and being with someone. Obviously, how much do you give? How much do you keep to yourself? Just so many questions around how to make a relationship last, how to not get your heart broken. And obviously there is no foolproof answer to all of this stuff. You just have to throw yourself into the ocean and just hope you learn how to swim. And not, drown. But yeah, so it's been very, it's very interesting to watch these relationships and how, these true crime relationships, which end up in murder or end up in death or whatever the case might be, that I'm listening to, and how you can extrapolate some form of information or insight that maybe you can apply to your own life when it comes to relationships. I think what I learned from, or what I'm learning as I continue listening to these true crime podcasts, is that I'm becoming more and more wary about the people in my life. I'm becoming wary about myself. One thing I believe is that you can never take the person who you fall in love with and make them your center or your complete being. It's something that quite frankly, I detest. When I see it in other people, I'm always like, oh, weird. But I know it happens. You're human. We're human beings. And sometimes we get carried away with our own emotions, or we're not actually just self-regulating. So you find yourself slipping into patterns of behavior that you would otherwise not slip into. If you were just more conscious of yourself, self-awareness, and if you were paying attention to your needs and what you need in this life. So yeah, I always caution people from falling too. No, I never caution people from falling too deeply too fast. I mean, I'm always like, fall deeply, fall fast. But don't make another person your whole being or your whole life. Not your whole being. Don't make them your whole life. I think that's really rather dangerous and really rather risky. As we repeatedly see from these from these true crime podcasts, it's terrifying. It's also terrifying to realize that you really don't know how far you can push the people in your life. And after pushing them that far, you don't know what course of action they might take to either self-correct, wherever you've pushed them out to, whatever trauma you've, sent them on. And as human beings, I think that we just need to be a little bit more gentle with each other. I think now more so than ever. I think if 2023 has taught me anything, it's the importance of being super gentle with other human beings, because actually the world is unraveling. Yeah, the world is unraveling. Just as in this podcast, Bad Thing, we're watching Meredith's mental state just unravel, just warp and become something jaded and tormented, and then focus in on the crime that she's about to commit. And she does everything in her power, from a mental state at least, to make sure that she executes this plan of hers. We just need to be, I think we all need to be like extra careful with each other and really work from a place of love as opposed to any other place. I understand that many times in relationships you might not have you might not have the answer or an answer to a question that you might be asking yourself, or someone might be asking you about where you are in your thinking processes or whatever the case might be. But I think it's important to be as honest as possible with another human being, especially if they have your heart. I think that's it, eh? I think that's all I'm going to say on relationships, and I haven't said much, but I really feel like we'll be circling back to this. Relationships are core to the whole human experience. I for one don't like the saying, what is that saying? That annoying saying that everyone thinks is like, yeah, or that the corporate world uses against everyone. Oh, what is it? We need other human beings, or human beings are social creatures. Yes, we're social creatures, but I don't want to be social in the work environment. I'm social in my personal life. This is not a place for me to be social. We're definitely social beings, and we definitely need other human beings in order to survive and have a full, not a full, full is not the right word, have some form of the human experience. But I think that it's really important to be very careful with other people. I think what I also found very interesting about this particular podcast, I don't know why I wanted to say particular. Anyway, what I found really interesting about this particular podcast was that while, she discovers that her husband is having this affair, and she starts writing everything down. She starts recording everything in videos, in voice recordings. She's recording Mark while he is having his excursions with Meredith. She's recording everything, just so that she can get some sense of reality, or she can confirm her state of reality, that she's not going crazy. That's another thing. We really do love to play mind games with each other as human beings. We need to stop that behavior. We need to stop that behavior and really just be honest with ourselves and others. I think that would just help everyone in the situation, or anyone in any relationship. Just be honest with how you feel. If not to your partner, at least first and foremost to yourself. So we'll come back to relationships. I don't know. It's one of my favorite topics. So I came across this very interesting app called QueerReads. It's an app basically dedicated to promoting LGBTQIA plus books and reading. And I was really excited about finding this app and learning about it. Simply because as a child, I know I eventually grew up to take English literary classes. I did really well in English in high school. Whatever. But I hated reading. I really, really hated reading. I could never find books that really spoke to me or spoke to my experiences or whatever the case might be. And I would have loved an app like this when I was younger, just to find some queer literature. I think it's important. I think that there is so much disinformation in the world around queer people and the queer experience that just knowing that there's a place for queer people to go and read literature that could be beneficial to them, I think it's important, it's inspiring. Just this week I was listening to a different podcast. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts now. I was listening to a different podcast where this guy was busy mentioning a book called The Velvet Rage, and I realized I have never read this book, but apparently it's really important to read it as a queer person. So I'm going to be trying to hunt down this book, The Velvet Rage, just so I can just understand what the hype is about it. I'd love to read it. So who knows, maybe I will find it on this app, which I just have not had the opportunity yet to delve deeper into. But I really think it's important, as queer people. I don't know. Reading really saves you. I remember being in grade 12. Grade 6 or 7. And like I said, I hated reading. It was very hard for me to even pick up a book and get into a book. Up until I think around the Harry Potter series, when that came out, that really interested me. And that's really where my habit or interest in reading came from. And it would have been interesting as a child just to have access to queer books. Obviously back then I was living my best closeted life indeed. But I think maybe if there was gay literature, who knows, maybe I would have come out sooner, lived a richer and fuller gay experience. I don't know. We make it up as we go along. But yeah. So if you haven't, I'm asking you guys to do a lot this week. Check out this podcast. Check out this app. Check out QueerReads. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be some really interesting literature for the literature. Who knows? Maybe there'll be some really interesting literature on there. On topics that I don't know, I'd never really thought about before. There are a lot of gay writers. There are a lot of gay poets. There are a lot of gay artists. And it's time to, I don't know, stop hiding them. Especially coming out of what I was reading last week. I don't know where in America, but this town, was it a group of moms? It had something to do with a group of moms who had gone to a school library and checked out all the LGBTQIA plus books. Obviously, we're still in the rhetoric of trying to protect the children, but I'm asking myself, what are you protecting them from? As the LGBTQIA plus people are, I don't know, some monsters in the night who are going to take your children and run away with them into the darkness or over the rainbow and into the light, whatever the case might be. So they've checked out these books, they haven't returned them to the library, they keep getting fines, and the school, or I don't know if it was the school or someone in the community, or if it was the library itself, went on a little bit of a fundraiser to raise money to replace these books, because obviously it's really important to... literature is very important. It allows young people to escape into a different reality, especially if you cannot escape into that if you cannot escape, or if you cannot express that reality or express that experience of a reality, I am getting all tongue-tied here. Hold on. I think what I'm trying to say is, especially if you cannot express that version of yourself in the real world. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So books really offer you that ability just to escape into a world where at least a part of you can feel valid, can feel real, can feel exceptions. I don't know, can feel something other than hurt and pain and survival, which is what a lot of LGBTQIA plus youth experience continuously. Just to experience something joyous. Yeah, something joyous. So yeah, check out that app. Or send it to someone who, I don't know, might need to read some queer art or some queer literature. Do something. Oi. Jonathan Van Ness. Van Ness? Oh gosh. I really do have a problem with people's surnames. Like, it's not my... I hate butchering other people's surnames because I think it's just disrespectful. So I'd rather just not say them at all. I might as well just call him JVN. JVN, as his Instagram handle is, was on another podcast. Me and podcasts. What's the name of the podcast? Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Oh, did I pronounce his surname correctly? Okay. Yeah, so JVN was on this podcast, and I first saw it on my social media. You're scrolling and it's like, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. Why is he upset? Why is he crying on this podcast? Like, I just don't get it. Like, why would Dax do this? And then I let it go, because that's what you do. You scroll, you stop somewhere for a while, you ponder, and then you keep it moving. And then it just kept coming up over and over again, and I was like, oh, this is so tedious. I just need to understand exactly what was this discussion that they were having that would get someone so emotional. Yeah. So there I am, driving to work, and I'm listening to this podcast, and let me tell you, right? Like, the propaganda machine around fear is really, it's taken us many years as a species to get it right. And I'm always surprised every day at how right we get it, or how right perpetrators of manipulation through fear have gotten it. Because yes, there was crying on this podcast, but it wasn't unwarranted, and it wasn't the kind of crying that was like, oh, I blame you, or someone who was like being overly emotional. No, it was a beautiful episode which discussed trans rights and the trans experience, and JVN did just this. He detailed just this beautiful experience. My choice of words. This experience of being a trans youth in America, playing sport, and how having sport ripped away from you is really to the benefit of nobody. Right now, we hear story after story, video after video, whatever the case might be, of these this fear around trans athletes taking over these spaces that once belonged to biological men and women, and like, we need to stop this, we need to protect the children. And it's a fear that is deeply, deeply unwarranted. I really don't know what people are afraid of. Sometimes I want to ask people, do you know anyone have you spoken to a trans person? Have you met a trans person in your life? Well, because your fear is of, a lot of the times, is of this boogeyman who is living under your bed that you never encounter, but you're told to fear them, with no facts, nothing real that you can base your opinions on, no research, nothing. You've got nothing except this fear that is being instilled in you to fear something that you know very little about. Human beings always amaze me because of this. And in the year 2023, when you have easy access to, I don't know, Google, easy access to Google, easy access to technology which can give you answers, you still choose not to. You still choose fear. Human beings are very interesting. Very, very interesting for this thing alone. So that's primarily why he was crying. He was explaining to Dax his activism. Something that I was really shocked about, but hey, I was like, impressive, love it, love this for you. Love that someone is fighting the good fight. And that's hard. That's hard in this world, especially right now with the climate. It's just not a good time. But like fear. We all need to check ourselves on some level, you know. I always say, I choose not to comment on something unless I've got enough information at my disposal to make like a sound judgment or provide a sound opinion. Otherwise, I'm just opening my mouth and I'm flapping, but who knows what the hell is coming out. It could be rubbish, garbage. I could be spewing garbage out here and it would be okay. And you see this rhetoric around, or I don't know, against trans people. You see it in America, you see it in Britain. Oh my gosh, Britain last week, or was it the UK, not Britain? In the UK, there was just, I don't know what was going on. There was some conference and it was just like this woman, what was her name? Let me pull up her name quick. I think her name is Suella Braverman. Once again, I really hate pronouncing people's names. I hate getting it wrong. Also, she was saying some very interesting things last week. Last week on my socials. Just this, oh gosh. We really do need to stop using our high school, not even high school, our primary school education, but like biology education, and thinking that biology hasn't advanced in all of the time since then. That somehow everyone is stuck in this world where where there's only two sexes, male and female, and nothing else exists in the world. Open a book, read podcast, I'm getting ahead of myself. Out of passion. Open a book. Yes, that's number one. Read a book. That's number two. Find other sources where you can learn from. There are many TikTokers who have robust discussions around trans people, trans rights, where I've learned a host of things that I had never even known about. That and they speak to professionals, they speak to people in these spaces who are tackling and trying to educate people on the daily around these matters. I, for one, didn't know something as simple. I didn't know something, as simple as someone could be born, an individual could be born in a man's body, but their brain structure could be completely female. You know, I didn't know that, and vice versa. so many things, or that the construction, or that the brain, my tongue this week, or that the construction of one's brain differs. So gay men have a different brain structure compared to straight men and women, and it goes on. Like, there's so many things in the world that we take for granted, that just because I was taught this way, this is how it is. No, darling, wake up. Get yourself some, like, I don't know, some coffee in the morning. Try something different. Consume something different, you know. The world has changed, and the world will continue to change, and it will continue to advance. And it's just really interesting to me. You know, I did not mean I did not mean to go down this avenue. Not this week. This week I wanted to keep it light and fairy and beautiful and because life is beautiful. Life is a beautiful thing that we need to celebrate. But in the same breath, how can I celebrate life when I know that there is so much pain, in the world currently? You know, if it's not in people's relationships, you know, where you actually don't know your partner, or we all think that you guys are beautiful on social media, but behind the scenes stuff, it's a hot mess, babes. It's a hot mess. Or I don't know what's happening in Israel and Palestine currently. The world is a messy place right now. It's not beautiful. But it should be. It should be beautiful for everyone. Everyone should be having a beautiful experience, I think. I think everyone should be having a beautiful experience. And maybe this is the beautiful experience that we've all signed up for. As messy as it is, as hard as it is, as difficult as it is to have these difficult conversations and these deep introspections. Maybe this is what makes life beautiful. These hard moments. Hey, look at me. These are hard moments which drive us to become versions of ourselves that we never thought or intended to become, ever. Yeah, you know, maybe that just makes for a beautiful life. And here I am rambling. So we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it. Once again, thank you so much for lending me your ears, lending me your time, and I hope that you've enjoyed this week's episode, because this one was a real mess. a real mess. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you share it around with your friends, your family, whatever the case might be. Just do the right thing. Comment, subscribe, like, share, reach out to me on at I am Woody Woods. At I am Woody Woods on any major social media platform. That's like Instagram, Threads, Twitter, whatever the case might be. Just find me there. And yeah, let me know what you thought. Let me know if there's a topic you want to discuss, whatever the case might be. I don't know what's happening in the world. So until next week, love and light, all the happiness, all the joy, all the peace, all the peace and love that this world actually needs. Oh gosh. Yeah. So until next week, adios, guys.